The mystery of the dragon god Arahabaki, the hidden history of Jomon in the land of Hidakami. Long ago, on the Japanese archipelago, there may have existed two great nations side by side, separate from the history we are taught in school. This is a journey into a past that textbooks never speak of, an exploration into history long considered taboo. The history of the ancient land of Hidakami stretches back far into antiquity. But as with all nations, myths and records were rewritten by those in power. The official histories of Kojiki and Nihonshoki, compiled in the Nara period, were written to present the beginning of the imperial lineage in the Yayoi-era, about 2,600 years ago, as the very beginning of Japan. Yet, archaeological evidence shows that people had already lived settled lives since the Jomon-era, long before this official beginning. Pottery, ornaments, and other artifacts suggest that Jomon society may have developed a civilization as advanced, or even more advanced, than that of the Yayoi. If so, then the idea that independent nations, or borderless tribal federations, already existed in the Jomon-era is not at all far-fetched. Koshi Koden, before Kojiki, and Nihonshoki. Before the compilation of Kojiki and Nihonshoki in the 8th century, there were already other historical texts in circulation, known as Koshi Koden, old historical transmissions. While their authenticity cannot be confirmed, many share strikingly similar accounts, hinting at a coherent picture of pre-Kojiki and Nihonshoki Japanese history. According to these texts, another great nation existed in Japan before the rise of the Yamato state. In the Nihonshoki, we read of an eastern land called Hidakami no Kuni, whose people were known as the Emishi. Similarly, the Old Book of Tang, Jiotang Shu, compiled in the 10th century China, records that two distinct nations once coexisted on the Japanese archipelago. More detailed descriptions of Hidakami and the Emishi are preserved only in these alternative histories. Hidakami, the Jomon nation of the north. About 7,300 years ago, the catastrophic eruption of the Kikai caldera devastated much of Japan, but spared the northeastern regions, where the land of Hidakami flourished. One of the most important archaeological sites from this time is the Sanai Maruyama site in Aomori, a vast Jomon settlement occupied for 1,500 years, from around 3,900 BCE. Here, pit dwellings, raised buildings, graves, and artifacts reveal a stable, complex society. The Jomon were maritime traders who crossed seas, navigating ocean currents, exchanging jade, obsidian, and amber. They produced lacquerware, intricately woven bags from conifer bark, and distinctive pottery. Shell mounds reveal their rich diet and food preservation practices, including nuts such as walnuts and acorns. Climate change brought repeated cooling phases. The Sanai Maruyama settlement eventually declined, pushing people southward. Oral traditions tell of their movement, becoming the legendary Hida and Fuji dynasties, before further eruptions and migrations forced them toward Kansai and Kyushu, where new centers emerged. Who, then, were these Emishi, and what role did they play in Japan's hidden history? Cultural records in the Nihonshoki. The Nihonshoki describes the people of Hidakami as both men and women tie up their hair and adorn their bodies with tattoos. This cultural description sets them apart from the Yamato people, suggesting that the Emishi were of a different ethnic and cultural lineage. Northern Japan was a crossroads for many groups: Buryats, Mongolic peoples; Dravidian Kunato tribes; Native Americans; Ainu; and Eastern Wa peoples. The Dravidian Kunato tribe is said to have settled along the Japan seacoast, establishing the Izumo kingdom, where the Japanese language first took shape. Later, with the arrival of Zhu Fu's people from Qin China, upheaval brought the Yayoi transition and the Great Wa Civil War. The myths tell of Nigi Hayahi and Ninigi no Mikoto, who reconciled by exchanging divine treasures. thus ending the chaos. These two branches of the Mononobe clan, both descended from Xufu's line, were ultimately merged, leading to the erasure of Nigi Hayahi's name from the official chronicles. The Mononobe and the birth of the Arahabaki clan. Xufu's people became the ancestors of the Mononobe and Inbe clans. Some groups are said to have carried Jewish traditions, with the early Mononobe linked to Xufu, and later, Hata clans bringing lunar cults and supporting the imperial line. The Mononobe first fought the Izumo with star-based beliefs, later merging with them through solar worship. Opposition figures such as Nagasuna Hiko, who resisted the union of Jimmu and Nigi Hayahi, were defeated. Legends say Nagasuna Hiko fled north, taking the name Ohiko, settling in Hokuriku and Tohoku. There, his descendants intermarried with local tribes and became known as the Arahabaki clan. This story aligns with myths of Takamikazuchi's struggle with Takaminakata and with the spread of Suwa worship from Hokuriku to Tohoku. Traces of faith in the Northeast and the mystery of the Ōharae in Tohoku. Evidence of Izumo traditions and Dragon-Serpent worship of Arahabaki remains. The Ōharae, Great Purification Ritual, includes the phrase Hidakami no Kuni and mentions the mysterious goddess Seoritsu Hime, absent from the Kojiki and Nihonshoki. Some theories identify her as the consort of Nigi Hayahi, later erased to reshape Amaterasu as a female deity. Izumo, oral traditions. Kunato and Arahabaki. According to the Izumo oral historian Tommy Masao, our great ancestors were Kunato, the male chief deity, and Arahabaki, the female chief deity. When the authorities tried to erase Arahabaki, her name was hidden under Benzaiten, while Kunato became identified with Jizo. Thus, Izumo had two ancestral deities, male and female. Arahabaki, as a dragon-serpent goddess, may have been the ancestral spirit of the Emishi of Hidakami. Over time, her worship was hidden under the names of Benzaiten and Seiritsu Hime, both associated with water and dragons. If we follow the theory that identifies Benzaiten and Seiritsu Hime with Arahabaki, then Arahabaki can be understood as a spirit of fertility. Traces of the dragon-serpent deity and the spread of its faith. Archaeological sites from the Jomon period reveal numerous figurines bearing serpents upon their heads, as well as pottery decorated with serpent motifs. At Omiya Hikawa Shrine in Saitama Prefecture, there is a place once considered forbidden, known as Snake Pond, long believed to be the dwelling place of Arahabaki. Tanaisen Shrine in Iwate Prefecture is said to have been a sacred site for the people of Hidakami no Kuni for more than 13,000 years, with megaliths serving as the objects of worship. Furthermore, according to tradition at Kingoryu Shrine on Fugope Cape in Otaru, Hokkaido, worship of sacred stones, Iwakura, by the Jomon people began there 16,000 years ago, and from around 5,000 years ago, the worship of the dragon deity Arahabaki was established. It is said that the deity Arahabaki began moving southward around 4,000 years ago, spreading from Hokkaido to Tohoku, Hokuriku, Izumo, Kanto, Tokai, Ise, and finally Kinai, eventually covering the entire Japanese archipelago. This narrative bears striking resemblance to the oral traditions of Izumo. Taken together, these accounts suggest that Arahabaki was not only a goddess, but also a dragon-serpent deity dwelling by waters and sacred stones. And astonishingly, this Arahabaki has even been whispered to share a connection with the distant Sumerian civilization. Why would such an association be made? The contemporary world, the mystery of Sumerian civilization. The key to unraveling the enigma of Arahabaki may lie in the movements of the world in the same era. Around 4,000 to 5,000 BCE, in prehistoric times, in Mesopotamia, the fertile land between rivers. Communal village life had already begun, with small temples being constructed. By about 3,500 BCE, city-states gradually began to form. The enigmatic Sumerians, creators of a high culture. It was the Sumerians who built a remarkable ancient civilization in this Mesopotamian region, founding many ancient cities such as Ur and Kish. Yet the Sumerians were not the original inhabitants of this land. They are said to have migrated into southern Mesopotamia from elsewhere, though the clues to their origin remain undiscovered to this day. Under their hands, the third dynasty of Ur flourished around 2100 BCE, marking the peak of Sumerian culture. Distinctive features of Sumerian civilization. Sumerian culture was extraordinarily advanced. The 7-day week still used in today's calendar is said to have originated with the Sumerians, who possessed sophisticated knowledge of astronomy. They conducted large-scale agriculture, developing irrigation systems and civil engineering works that spread water channels throughout Mesopotamia. They mastered the production of bronze tools and painted pottery. Most notably, they used cuneiform script, one of the earliest writing systems, even composing the earliest known legal codes, a true hallmark of civilization. The disappearance of the Sumerians, a journey eastward with the gift of writing. In 2006 BCE, the third dynasty of Ur fell to invasions by foreign peoples. What became of the Sumerians afterward remains shrouded in historical mystery. If the Sumerians truly possessed wisdom that resonates even today, it is conceivable that they might have understood the existence of the international dateline in the Far East. Perhaps they embarked on a journey eastward. Could it be that they carried with them their identity as the inventors of writing, and that their echoes might still be found in the legends of Arahabaki at the far edge of the world? In the next episode, we will explore the migration to the Eastern Islands as recorded in the Dongyi Zhuan and its connection to the Jomon people. Stay tuned.